And in the end, you're still my friend. At least we did intend for us to work. We didn't break, we didn't burn. We had to learn how to bend without the world caving in. I had to learn what I got and what I'm not, and who I am. 'Cause I won't give up on us, even if the skies get rough. I'm giving you all my love. God knows we're worth it. Well, I won't give up on us. God knows I'm tough enough. We got a lot to learn. God knows we're worth it. Well, I won't give up on us, even if the skies get rough. I'm giving you all my love. I'm still looking up. Also, and the band, and Rick.
So during January of each year, many Centers for Spiritual Living centers will actually go through the basics that are taught in this philosophy called Science of Mind. Now, the organization is called Centers for Spiritual Living. The philosophy is called the Science of Mind. Some people call it science of the mind, but it's not really, it's the science of mind, knowing the mind, how it operates, etc. A classic example of that in the lyrics of the song that Lauren sang, the God that she spoke of is a nurturing, there to support and assist presence. Some people have a notion of a Santa Claus God, that if you're bad, you get coal, and if you're good, then you get the good stuff. Others have no thing for God. I've had several conversations with atheists over the past 35 plus years, and every single time when we talked about God in the sense of most people's understanding of the word, they say, I don't believe in that. I don't blame you. I couldn't believe in that either. Nature, now that's a God I can buy into. Because it's consistent, reliable, predictable, always there, never defies you. If you mess up with natural law, you get messed up. That's clean to me. And so the first week, last week, our talk was the thing itself. What is it that lives behind everything? Some call it God, some call it Allah, some call it Creator. It's all one and the same. And I will add to that, it's all one and the same, an important piece, even if we think it's nothing. Even if we think it's nothing. Because that's what you have as your source and resource for every experience possible. The second week, this week, it's the way it works. Once we know that there's something bigger, it's good to know that it's available. But once we know that there's something bigger, infilling and surrounding us, we can begin to understand that it works through us. And that's the message today. Next week, we'll take it a little bit further. What it does, the infinite finds its way into the world through the channel of our own minds. Now, a lot of people think that this philosophy is a think-a-thon. It's not. It's fully integrated. It's fully embodying every aspect of the human experience. So, how many of you think? How many of you, well, some people didn't raise their hand. That's honest. I appreciate that. Thank you. And then, how many of you feel? More people feel than think, I think. And then the experiences we have are part of that feeling. So that week, next week, is really about the beliefs that we have embodied, not what we wished we did, but what we actually believed. And then the following week, the last week, is, in my mind, where the rubber meets the road. It's how to use it. So how do we use the divine power and intelligence? By actual demonstration, by doing life. And that's the key. By doing life, we prove that there is this thing that's bigger. Some people call it luck or magic or fortune, fate, destiny. Call it what you wish. But there's some connection between that invisible stuff and the experiences we have day to day, and we have access to change those experiences when we understand how it works. We use it, meaning the God, presence, Baha'u'llah, Allah, whatever you may happen to call it, we use it and prove that it exists through our actions, and we get that feedback through our experiences in life. So today, the way it works. Dr. Holmes wrote in The Science of Mind, which is it's called the textbook. There are two versions, a 1926 edition and then the 1939 edition, which is what we typically use in most of our curriculum. In this particular book, in that particular chapter, the second chapter, our belief sets the limit to our demonstration of a principle which of itself is without limit. We limit the infinite in our experience. It's ready to fill everything because it's infinite. But what if we don't know that? Let us realize that it's not a question of its willingness nor of its ability. It's entirely a question of our own receptivity. How receptive are you to the infinite good of life? Answer that within your own heart and mind, within the depths of your being. Because there are a lot of times, and I too have done this as well. That's why I call this philosophy as the savior of my life. It literally helped me see what I was doing that was making my life suck. And when I stopped doing those things that made my life suck, it stopped sucking. So when somebody next time say, "How's your day?" You say, "Well, my day is great when I let it be." It's like that. Let us realize, as high as we shall make our mark in mind and spirit, so high shall be its outward manifestation in our material world. Well, that's kind of a bold statement, but also true. There was this family, this young family, the Smiths, and they brought their young son, Jonathan, out to a local restaurant. And they all sat down in the booth, and the server came over, and she recognized them. And little Jonathan, 5-year-old, precocious little boy, she sees Jonathan. She asks him what he would like for dinner. And he says, "Well, I want a grilled cheese sandwich." And she said, "Jonathan, I'm sorry, but we don't sell grilled cheese sandwiches here at this restaurant. So is there anything else you'd like?" "No, I'll have a grilled cheese sandwich." And she says, "But Jonathan, I just told you, we don't sell them." He says, "Well, do you have a grill?" I said, "Yeah." "And do you have cheese?" And she's getting suspicious now. "Yeah." "And do you have bread?" She said, "Yeah." He says, "So I'll have a grilled cheese sandwich." And she looks at him, and just in her mind, she's going. So she said, "I'll tell you what, Jonathan, I'll go back and talk to the chef and see if I can get him to make you a grilled cheese sandwich." So she leaves. She comes back in a little bit and says, "The chef is willing to make you a grilled cheese sandwich, but I forgot to ask you, what would you like to drink?" He says, "I would like a chocolate milkshake." And she said, "Now, Jonathan," because she's on to him now, "Jonathan, I understand, and probably your parents told you we don't sell chocolate milkshakes here. I know we have ice cream and we have milk, but we don't have chocolate syrup. And Jonathan, in his bold fashion, says, "You have a car, don't you?" As high as we set in our minds will be our experience that comes out of our setting of that idea. Have you ever decided you wanted to have something in your life? And you got it. And you may have said, "Oh, magic happens. Oh, God answered my prayers. Oh, it was the right timing." It was years ago, in fact, when I was the minister here at this center, I decided to look at luck and to do prayer work to treat for luck. But I had to understand what luck was for me, because that's what happens. Our definitions determine how we experience whatever we're defining. So, got to thinking about it. What is luck for me? Luck for me is being in the right place at the right time with the right resources, with the right willingness. That's luck. So I started treating for luck. And I'll be darned. A week later, I went to Super Bowl Sunday over at some friend's house, and there were about 25 people there, and we had the Super Bowl, dollar a slot kind of peg, and what do you call it? The chart where you pick the score. It's the last numbers of the score at each inning or at each quarter, so that at the end you win the whole pot. But you win 25% of it at the first quarter, 25% at the halftime, etc. I won the first quarter. Now here's the magic part. The number I bought one square. The number I got was 00. What are the chances at Super Bowl Sunday that the scores are going to be 0-0? And so my mind is going, "Oh, come on, that's not going to work." And I thought, no, I'm treating for luck. And I imagine people saying, "You are the luckiest SOB I think I've ever seen. Nobody's ever done that. It's a miracle. It's amazing. What are you doing?" Etc. Into the first quarter, the score was 0-10. $25, thank you very much. And at halftime, the score was 10-20. 0-0. Another $25, thank you very much. The third quarter, the score is still 10-20. $25 more, thank you very much. The final score, 10-20. I won $100 with a $1 bet treating for luck. I decided to embrace my chocolate milkshake and demand of the world that it feed it to me by seeing people saying to me, in my own imagination, mind you, "You are the luckiest son," and they were saying it. I can't believe it. As again and again and again through that period, and it confirmed for me, I proved that the God I knew answered whatever I wanted. I had full access to that power, presence, and intelligence, and I let it come into my life. The secret to letting a prayer happen, the letting your results be what you really desire them to be, is the letting it to happen. Because there's so many times we've made decisions that thwart that experience. Have you ever heard it be said, "If I could just get out of my own way"? Yeah, and what is it that's in our way? The conclusions we've drawn up to this point in time. Do you want a chocolate milkshake or not? Metaphorically. Anything that you want in your life, you can choose to have. Now, that's a bold statement. And it's not a get-rich-quick scheme, people. Here's the key. We have to grow into that which could have that which we desire. Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, the guy who brought transcendental meditation to the United States, he said, if you want to know God, meditate. If you want to know yourself, get married. Because your partner will learn every single button, every single little weakness that you have, and feed it to you to support you becoming who they thought they married. Huh, honey? In our ignorance of the truth, Linda read this this morning. In our ignorance of the truth, we have misused the highest power we possess. And so great is this power, so complete is our freedom in it, that the misuse of this power has brought upon us the very conditions from which we suffer. So what is the misuse? Not to use is to misuse too. Not to access, not to learn how it works is to misuse it too. Because everything we've known up to this point in time is only a small fragment of what we can know. Have you learned something in the last couple of days? I trust as much. If you haven't learned something in the last couple of days, one, you're not paying attention. Two, you're not looking for something to learn. Or three, you really ought to go out and get a life. We are bound because we are first free. Now that's tricky. We're bound because we are first free. The power which appears to bind us is the only power in the universe which can free us. Well, nobody in their right mind would choose to be enslaved. Well, maybe not everybody's in their right mind. Have you ever been in your wrong mind? Yeah, me too. I mentioned a couple of weeks ago when I spoke last that the Science of Mind saved my life, and I mentioned it earlier today. It saved my life because I was Donnie Cynic. That's the worst nickname I could think of for myself. And that state of being a cynic, I saw the negative of everything, everywhere, in everyone. Now, how inspiring and supporting is that kind of a point of view? I'm not saying it's not justified, okay? Especially about certain topics, which we will not get into today. However, we can rant and rave about all sorts of things if we decide to, and we can choose to live from that point of view or not. I'm going to keep asking the question, do you want a chocolate milkshake or not? So this is why Jesus summed up his whole philosophy in this simple statement: it is done unto you as you believe. Not as you wish you believe, not as somebody else told you you ought to believe, but as you really believe. If you believe life is unfair, congratulations, you're right. If you believe you can't, congratulations, you're right. You're an absolute success in every belief you have, confirming into your life that very belief. And I'm not talking about just the thought. That's a start, but that's not the thing. It's the experience of that thought. What is your experience at the core of you about life, about other people, about your relationship with everything in it? And so we suffer not because suffering is imposed upon us, but because we are ignorant of our true nature. What is our true nature? Our true nature, I'm going to use some words, God. But what does that mean to you? Is it the heaven in the heaven bearded guy who answers some prayers sometimes? Or is it that infinite presence that infills and surrounds everything and everyone that we have access to every single moment? What is that for you? And if you really want to find out what your God is, look at your life, because that's the evidence that you can use to find out what you believe God is. Now, does that sound complicated? To look at your own life? To find out what you think about life and yourself and your relationship with all of it? It's really not all that complicated, but it does take some attention, some conscious attention. Raymond Charles Barker, who was one of the great teachers of the Science of Mind philosophy and the minister of a huge church in New York City back in the, It would have been the 30s, in that time frame, 30s and 40s. The law takes us at the level of our own self-acceptance. To what degree do you really accept yourself? I want you to think about that. We'll have a little bit of a momentary classroom experience, because the foundations class that starts at 12:30 up here today will give you that experience. As it evolves for you, your point of view evolves about you. As your level of acceptance increases, as it expands, you will be able to see evidence in your life, and week to week discover more aspects about that and be able to hear other people share their expansion and evolution at the same time. It was not this class, because this class was written in the 90s. But it was the class that was offered back in the 80s that liberated me from my previous self-concept. A little thing you don't know. I dropped out of college before going into my junior year because I had to take a speech class. People marvel at that little story. I mean, it's a simple little thing. And until we realize that we want more out of life, we may not discover more of ourselves so that we can have more of that life. The law takes us at the level of our own self-acceptance. Do you love yourself as you is, which includes as you ain't? Do you accept yourself as you is, including as you ain't? And that's not justifying bad behavior. We live in a society, people. Believe me, I have tried to justify my bad behaviors. It's not what I'm talking about. It's our own level of actual acceptance. So when we talk about love, when we talk about God, think about love in its highest sense of the term. If you were taught that love means somebody gets to abuse you, that's not the love I'm talking about. I'm talking about the love of a loving parent who will do anything for their child, anything, and want their child to be liberated in every regard, free in every regard. That's the acceptance that I encourage you to consider embracing for yourself. Bless you. Okay, we're going to do a little something that we haven't done in a long time. We call it, it's not that wall, it's a wall of prayer. It's a different kind of wall than the one we're hearing about in the news. This is a wall that supports freedom and evolution. And so all the practitioners will be coming to the front of the room around here, and they'll be spread out in such a way that you can go up to any one of them and receive one of these prayers that help you awaken to more of who you already are inside and haven't maybe experienced outside. This is how it works. You're going to walk up to one of them. They probably will put their hands on your shoulders so that you're close enough that you can hear them and they can hear you, but you won't be heard by the people next to them or people in the front row. And you will state in 10 seconds, what is it you really want to experience? Not the story. The story only reaffirms what isn't the truth of you. You claim the experience you desire, and you should be able to do so very quickly. And during this time that I'm blah, 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 you're probably thinking about what that is so that you can walk up to them, speak your desire, and let them pray for you, and it will be a very short prayer. It'll be very clear. So this will go on for a couple of minutes. After which, and at the end of which, I will call us back for our morning closing prayer, our morning benediction. So, let's have some music and begin our wall of prayer. Let's pray together. So as these individual treatments continue, I speak my word for this whole room, for this whole congregation, for everyone touched by everyone in this room, so that this prayer ripples out across the globe, transforming the lives that it touches. And I know for each person, deep within my soul, within my experience, in my gut, an absolute profound sense of self and the joy of that self, the ease and peace of that self. That everyone who comes into contact with each person in here realizes, holy smokes, that's God. That's joy, that's peace, that's ease. I want some of that. I want that experience in my life. And the smiles form, and an experience of success in every aspect of living easily settles into each person's life. The awakening has already been stimulated. The experience already comes into the lives of each person. And filled with gratitude better than Christmas or birthday presents or anything, I smile and vibrate in the joy of it. I let it be. And together we affirm this by saying, and so it is.